We enter a world whose past involved a large-scale war between samurai and mechanized samurai bandits known as Nobusari. The samurai fought a losing battle and retreated, and the war ended with an uneasy peace. Now the Nobusari plague farming villages, periodically taking all their food and supplies and sometimes their women and children. The peasants of one village, Kana, decide to seek samurai to fight off the Nobusari on their behalf. 3 villagers, Kirara, the water priestess, her sister, Komachi, and a farmer, Rikichi, set off for the city to find samurai who are willing to work for rice. As the 3 enter the city, a man steals their rice and flees. A samurai with green hair stops him, causing the rice to spill and pour over the street. The samurai apologizes for pouring the rice and walks away. Just then, they hear commotion coming from a different part of town. A man sees a poor couple's child and is holding him hostage. The green-haired samurai from before, Katsushiro, offers to help the couple. But before he does, a large samurai in armor named Kikuchiyo steps out of the crowd. He says that he'll help them, but it'll cost them their house. He slices the house down with one swoop of his sword. He tells the man to give up and let go of the child. The man then reveals dynamite strapped onto his chest. Just then, another samurai steps out of the crowd. This new unknown samurai challenges Kikuchiyo to a duel. With one swing of his sword, the unknown samurai slices off Kikuchiyo's head. To everyone's shock, Kikuchiyo is unharmed because he is completely mechanized. The unknown samurai saves the child with a few cuts and slices off all the explosives strapped to the bandit's chest. With the child in the arms of its parents, the unknown samurai walks away. Kirara says that her pendant has chosen that samurai. After the previous incident, Kikuchiyo finds his mechanic Masamune to fix his head back onto his body. Elsewhere, Katsushiro finds the unknown samurai from before, who is revealed to be called Kanbei. Katsushiro begs Kanbei to take him in as his student, just when Kirara catches up to Kanbei and asks him to protect her village. Kanbei refuses both of them, but Katsushiro agrees to help Kirara. Suddenly, the young Lord Ukyo, the son of the local magistrate, kidnaps her. Rikichi and Komachi find Kikuchiyo and ask him to help them. Together with Katsushiro, they head out to intercept the carriage. Katsushiro and Kikuchiyo fight Ukyo's numerous strong bodyguards. The 2 samurai put up a good fight, but are no match for Ukyo's protectors. During the fight, Kirara escapes. She is soon cornered by 3 of the Ukyo's bodyguards on the edge of a draining pipe. She jumps down, but Kanbei spots her just in time and jumps off the pathway to catch her. He succeeds, and they both land onto an elevator-type platform. Kanbei decides to help the Kana trio. After the fight with Ukyo's men, the injured Katsushiro and a chastened Kikuchiyo come across Goroba, a cocky street entertainer. He challenges Katsushiro to play his game of arrows, shooting at his forehead. He catches the arrow just as it nicks his skin. After rescuing Kirara, Kanbei returns to the base with her. At the castle, Ukyo is furious that his men couldn't capture Kirara for him. Just then, his father, Ayamaro, shows up. He tells Ukyo not to be upset and orders to kill Kirara and her companions. Katsushiro, Kikuchiyo, and Masamune return to the base where they see Kanbei. They all sit down and Katsushiro gives Kirara the pendant she dropped. Kanbei says that he has decided to help them protect their village. Unfortunately, he adds that he doesn't want Katsushiro or Kikuchiyo to aid him. Kanbei says that he needs 7 samurai, including himself. Masamune says that they may have found a samurai that Kanbei might find interesting. Kanbei asks him to get the samurai. Goroba comes walking in. Goroba sits down and hears the story. He says that he accepts. Suddenly, an arrow comes flying in the room and Goroba catches it just in time, saving Kanbei. They head outside and see some of Ayamaro's henchmen. Goroba makes a wager with the 2 assassins sent by Ayamaro. He bets that if the archer fires an arrow at his head and he stands still, he'll be able to stop it. The archer decides to make it 5 arrows, and if Goroba loses, they'll take the heads of everyone there. Goroba says that if he wins, they have to leave. The assassin fires the arrow without giving a reply. Goroba catches all the arrows. The assassins then charge at Goroba, saying that they never agreed to the deal. Kikuchiyo then destroys the beam that supports the upper-level walkway. The assassins then take this opportunity to split up. One tries to attack Kikuchiyo, but Kanbei is able to scare him away. Then the archer attacks Kikuchiyo, but Kanbei defeats him easily. Then the other attacks Goroba, who also defeats his foe. Goroba delivers the final blow by impaling his sword through the head of the assassin, revealing that he was actually a robot. With the battle over and their hideout destroyed, Kirara says that she won't leave until they find all the samurai they need. Masamune offers them his place as their new hideout, and they all accept. Meanwhile, in the palace, Ukyo asks his father to send Kyuzo and Hugo, his 2 samurai, to defeat Kanbei and the others, since samurai can only defeat samurai. Meanwhile, Kirara and Katsushiro are walking the streets of the city. Kirara explains that the crystal around her neck uses water to sense different things. They arrive at the post office and send a letter to Kana village informing them of their progress. The old maid in the post office tells another man to inform the magistrate that they have located the girl and samurai. Elsewhere, Goroba spots Kyuzo. Katsushiro and Kirara walk back to the hideout and see Kanbei along the way. Kanbei makes Kyuzo's presence known. Kanbei and Kyuzo begin to walk in a circle. Kanbei asks for Kyuzo's name, knowing he's been summoned. Kyuzo gives it to him, then subsequently challenges him. Kanbei accepts and they have a brief duel before Kanbei ends it, telling Kyuzo he can't kill him now because of the job he promised to do. He leaves, but Kyuzo raises his blades to kill him. Just then, Kikuchiyo arrives and Kyuzo flees. Kanbei touches the cut on his neck and says he wants Kyuzo for the cause. The message Kirara sent to Kana village finally arrives. The elder reads it and informs the other villagers that Kirara has only found 2 samurai and will find 7 before she returns. Back at the hideout, a samurai shows up wanting a machine from Masamune. Masamune, who is actually going to scrap it, decides to sell it to him. The samurai says that he doesn't have any money, but can chop wood for it. Goroba arrives and looks at the wood the samurai is chopping. Kanbei and the others arrive back and Goroba introduces them to Heihachi, the wood-chopping samurai. Katsushiro and the others say that they have been looking for him. Kanbei, Kirara, Katsushiro, Heihachi, and Kikuchiyo set out to find some more samurai. They come across Hyogo. Kanbei takes him on, while Kikuchiyo takes on the many robotic henchmen of the assassin. Heihachi runs to the right and sets up a trap. He triggers it and the stone columns holding up the platform everyone is standing on collapses. Heihachi ties an anchor to Kikuchiyo and throws a rope to Katsushiro, Kirara, and Kanbei. Kanbei is now able to knock Hyogo off, who flees. In the palace, Ayamaro, Ukyo, Kyuzo, and Hyogo stand over a dead Imperial envoy's body. He was killed by a samurai sword. Ayamaro declares that he wants all samurai captured, dead or alive. Kikuchiyo gets captured and is thrown in jail. He lies to the samurai there, saying he got caught on purpose so that he could free them. He says that if he does, they all have to do him a favor. He easily breaks out of jail and they all run to Kanbei and the others. Kanbei says that they are all a waste of his time. To prove that they are too weak, he takes them all on and easily defeats them. Masamune tells them that they must escape from the hideout because it isn't safe. He shows them to an old elevator train. Kanbei thanks Masamune and has to avoid getting him caught up in everything. He ties him up and leaves him behind. With that, the rest take off on the train. As they move on the tracks, some Imperial guards catch up behind them while others set up explosive trap ahead of them. Kanbei has a plan and tells them to cut off the passenger car. He gives a rope to Kikuchiyo and tells him to wheel it in when he gives the word. Kikuchiyo and Goroba fight off many henchmen while Kanbei commences his plan. He separates the 2 cars and tells Kikuchiyo to start to wheel in. Just then, the Imperial guards ahead set off the trap and it caused a huge hole in the tracks. Kikuchiyo tells Goroba to go on ahead and begins to wheel it. The front car slows and everyone jumps off onto a nearby platform. Kanbei then shouts at Kikuchiyo to let go and jump off. But Kikuchiyo doesn't have time as he is fighting henchmen on the elevator train. As Kikuchiyo falls past them at a high speed, he tells Kanbei that he better not screw up and better save the farmers. With that, Kikuchiyo, along with some Imperial guards and henchmen, fall into the ditch. Kanbei says that it's time to visit his old mate. Kanbei and the others arrive outside of the village of Respite. Kanbei greets his old friend and Shichiroji invites him in. Elsewhere, Kikuchiyo, who is still alive, is being chased by Ukyo's men. He then hides in the lake just outside the village of Respite. Kanbei and the others sit and eat a huge meal with Shichiroji and Yukino. Shichiroji asks Kanbei if he's going to start a new war with the Nobusari. Kanbei replies that if that's what it takes, he will. Elsewhere, Kikuchiyo makes his way to Firefly House and hides out in a room. Meanwhile, Kyuzo destroys the mechanical guards. Ukyo, along with his men, make their way to Firefly House in pursuit of Kikuchiyo. While talking, Shichiroji tells Kanbei that there is a way to escape underground if he can survive. He also says that he'll go with him. They gather everyone together. Suddenly, Ukyo and the others come in and knock down a room across the hall. Inside is Kikuchiyo, who runs towards Kanbei. Shichiroji rips the tiles up from the floor and uses them as a shield. They all use this opportunity to escape down the secret passage. Everyone loads onto a tiny boat, including Shichiroji. He bids farewell to Yukino. Ukyo takes an arrow from Tessei and shoots it at the samurai. Suddenly, guardians appear, forcing Ukyo to retreat. Meanwhile, Rikichi spots some rice on shore and runs off the boat toward it, and Goroba chases after him. He spots the rice and a bunch of people harvesting it and sap from the trees. A girl walks up to him and tells him not to touch the rice. The girl introduces herself as Honoka. She explains that they harvest the sap for the Guardians, who are always watching them. She then tells the group to follow her to her house. Kirara and Komachi sit beside Katsushiro, with Heihachi and Shichiroji there as well. Just then, Shichiroji notices a Guardian above them. The Guardian shoots a dart into Katsushiro and runs off. Shichiroji heads back inside and Kanbei inspects the dart. He says that it's actually a pharmaceutical dart that was used during the Great War. Katsushiro says that the pain is gone and he feels better. Shichiroji wonders why the Guardians are helping them. Katsushiro tells Kanbei to go on without him. Kanbei tells him to stop acting brave and that he is the 5th samurai. Elsewhere, Rikichi tells Honoka that she must come with him and stay at the village once the bandits are taken care of. Goroba asks Honoka if she has any family. She says that she only had a sister who was taken by the Nobusuri or bandits. Just then, the Nobusuri arrive. Honoka explains to everyone that they are the Guardians' trading partners. Rikichi, who wants to do something and fight them, can't believe that no one is doing anything. He grabs Goroba's sword and runs to where the Nobusuri landed. Goroba catches up to him and holds him back. Rikichi explains that his wife was sold to the Nobusuri. Kanbei asks him what her name was and he replies, Sania. Kanbei swears that they will rescue her after they save Kana village. Sometime later, Kikuchiyo goes after the Nobusuri, secretly while hiding in the river. Komachi follows him, but he tells her to go back. Once Kikuchiyo gets outside, he comes across an unhappy Hyogo and Kyuzo. With Kikuchiyo captured by the Nobusuri, Kanbei devises a way to rescue him. Katsushiro, who is still weak from earlier, stays behind with Kirara and Komachi, while Honoka leads the others to the exit. However, the samurai soon learn that it is a trap when the Nobusuri ambush them. Rikichi can't believe that she would do something like that since the bandits captured her sister, but she soon confesses. Kanbei and the others easily take care of the Nobusuri. Hyogo shows up and almost kills Kanbei, if not for Kyuzo, who saves Kanbei, claiming that he will be the only one to kill him. After the defeat of the Nobusuri, a bandit tells Hyogo to flee with them since they got what they came for. To see how strong the samurai are, Hyogo brands Kyuzo a traitor and leaves. The Guardians show up and explain the situation. Honoka says that the bandits promised that she be reunited with her sister, Mizuki, if she led the samurai out that exit. She adds that she told them everything, including that the samurai plan to head to Kana village. Meanwhile, Katsushiro wakes up feeling much better. He gets dressed and begins to leave to aid Kanbei and the others. Suddenly, the Guardian appears at the door. In Kana village, the Nobusuri show up. They ask the village elder if they hired samurai. He, of course, denies it. The Nobusuri says that he can tell when he's lying. He says that if any samurai come, that they'd better turn them in immediately. With that, he flies off. Elsewhere, Kyuzo destroys some Nobusuri with ease. Kanbei and the others see the explosions below and head to the site. When they arrive, they spot Hyogo facing Kyuzo with a tied-up Kikuchiyo. Hyogo tells Kyuzo that if he kills Kanbei, then he'll forget about his earlier acts. Kyuzo turns around and faces Kanbei. Hyogo becomes impatient and uses his gun to blow the two up. Suddenly, Katsushiro jumps down and frees Kikuchiyo. Simultaneously, Kyuzo lunges at Hyogo and Kanbei. Shichiroji, Gorobe, and Heihachi destroy the remaining Nobusuri. Hyogo, who is dying, tells the samurai that the Nobusuri already know of their plans. Realizing that Kyuzo has nowhere to go, Kanbei invites him to join them. Kyuzo accepts. With the Nobusuri on their trail, Kanbei splits everyone up into 3 groups, each group taking along a farmer who knows the way to Kana village. They all agree to meet at the huge rock formation just outside the village. Still not accepted by Kanbei, Kikuchiyo goes off on his own. Kanbei's group soon meets up with Kikuchiyo. Meanwhile, Goroba's group heads through the city, the most dangerous path. Kirara's group heads through the mountainside. Disguised Kanbei and his group arrive at the meeting place. Soon after, Goroba, Heihachi, and Rikichi arrive. They wonder where the other 3 are. Shichiroji appears and says that they arrived earlier. After sneaking into Kana village via a cart, the group discovers that there is no one in the village. Kirara heads to the village elder and Komachi runs after her. She comes across an old friend, Okara, who explains that all the villagers went into hiding. Kirara finds the elder and brings the samurai to him. Kanbei and the other samurai talk with the village elder and the men of the village, who are all afraid of the samurai. Kikuchiyo arrives with rice and a farmer's daughter. Kikuchiyo tells the others that the Nobusuri will find where they're hiding like he did and just take what they want. The next morning, Kanbei begins preparing for battle. He makes King Hachi in charge of weapons and Shichiroji in charge of defense. He tells Kyuzo to gather up the men and teach them how to use a bow and arrow. He then turns to Katsushiro and tells him to go on guard duty. Kanbei and Goroba continue to scout the village. They make note that they need to cut the bridge and unfortunately isolate the 4 homes on the other side. Manzo overhears and decides to tell the Nobusari. His daughter tells him not to, but he insists and leaves. She tells Kirara asking her to help. Katsushiro overhears in the woods and Kirara asks him to help them. The 3 head to where Manzo went. They listen in the bushes as he tells the Nobusari about the 7 samurai. Katsushiro rushes out of the bushes and charges at the bandit. The bandit easily pushes Katsushiro back, saying that Manzo betrayed him. Katsushiro realizes that if he lets the bandit go, it's all over. His eyes go wide and he grabs his sword firm. He slices through the armor, cutting it and the bandit in half. Kanbei, Kikuchiyo, and Heihachi arrive at the scene to discover Katsushiro and dead bandit. Heihachi drags Manzo all the way to the village elder. The elder demands to know why Heihachi is treating a farmer like that. Heihachi explains that he told the bandits what the samurai were doing. Heihachi is prepared to kill Manzo for being a traitor. Manzo and his daughter beg him not to kill him, but Heihachi raises his sword. Shichiroji stops his blade just in time. Kanbei walks up to Manzo and tells him that he'll be forgiven this time, but not if it happens again. Meanwhile, the Nobusari discuss among themselves, saying that the patrol that went near Kana never reported in. Unbeknownst to everyone, the Nobusari close in on Kana village ready to attack. Kyuzo continues to train the men in archery. Suddenly, he drops down and puts his ear to the ground, proclaiming it's time. Goroba stands on a cliff and then beats the stick, sounding an alarm throughout the village. Heihachi sits on top of a huge catapult with a sharpened tree trunk on it. The farmers begin to move it in place onto a huge cliff. Meanwhile, the women head to Kirara's hut for shelter. As the bandits move closer, Kikuchiyo positions the catapult and cranks it until Heihachi tells him to stop. Kanbei informs them to fire. Rikichi cuts the rope, as does other farmers, and the huge tree trunk flies into the air. It hits a giant Nobusari dead-on and destroys it. With that, the samurai head down to where the archers are. Kanbei then tells them to fire at will. They all hit the bandits and eventually destroy the rope bridge, destroying many. The Nobusari head into the village via the fields of rice. They spot the farmers in the field who kneel before them. Rikichi says that they made a horrible mistake and that they offer the rice they picked so far as an apology. The Nobusari says that they will take the rice, but they need more than that. Rikichi says they have also captured some samurai and they reveal Katsushiro, Goroba, and Kyuzo tied together by a rope and Kikuchiyo's head in a basket. In the capital, Ukyo is informed by Tessei that Kana village has gone to war with the Nobusari. Ukyo tells Tessei not to tell his father and to stop the samurai hunt. Meanwhile, Rikichi and the other farmers offer the rice and the 4 captured samurai to the Nobusari. The Nobusari is reluctant to believe him and prepares to destroy the village. Suddenly, Kirara arrives. She begs the bandit to take her and spare the others. The Nobusari agrees and takes Kirara along as well. On board their ship, the Nobusari throw Katsushiro, Gorobe, and Kyuzo into a jail cell and tie them up. In the control room, the bandits and the giant mechanized machines stand there with Kirara and Kikuchiyo's head on a pike. The bandit says that they are going to bring Kirara to the capital and sell her. Elsewhere on the ship, Kanbei, Shichiroji, Heihachi, and Kikuchiyo's body emerge from the rice sacks. Kanbei tells Heihachi to go on ahead and that he knows his job. The remaining 3 head into the hall and take out some bandits. Meanwhile, Goroba breaks free of his ropes and manages to trick the guard, kill him, and take the key. He opens up Katsushiro's cell, who has yet to untie himself. He then unlocks Kyuzo. They then head out and meet some bandits. Goroba and Kyuzo attack them. Kanbei, Shichiroji, and Kikuchiyo's body head across the bridge toward the main part of the ship, killing bandits along the way. They end up in the main control room just as the Nobusari is about to destroy Kana. Goroba jumps down from the ceiling and kills the 2 bandits holding Kirara hostage. Kyuzo also arrives and together with Kanbei and Shichiroji, begin killing the bandits. Goroba throws Kikuchiyo his head and the 2 join in the fight. Elsewhere, Heihachi heads to the control room and works his magic, destroying the engine. After Kanbei tells Kyuzo the Nobusari's weak spot, Kyuzo impales the chest of one in a mech and destroys it. Heihachi arrives and tells them that it's time to escape. Shichiroji runs off and finds an exit. He uses his mechanical arm to shoot a grappling hook across to a tree, knocking it down. Kikuchiyo holds the tree down as an anchor, and the rest escape. The samurai are on the cliff after just destroying the bandits' ship. However, the bandits themselves aren't all gone yet. 2 red Nobusari come jetting up, one heads to Katsushiro while the other goes to Kikuchiyo and Shichiroji. Some more Nobusari soon follow, but Kanbei and the others each take out one, with Kyuzo taking out 2. Suddenly, a bullet hits Kikuchiyo. Kanbei announces that it's a sniper and then says that someone needs to scout. Kyuzo goes on himself. The samurai and Kirara head back into the village. Kirara tells that the women the bandits take are brought to the capital. Rikichi asks where the capital is, but no one knows, not even Kanbei. Kyuzo arrives back home. He throws Heihachi a huge gun and asks him if he can do anything with it. Katsushiro comes running up announcing that the bandits have arrived. A second attack of the Nobusari has begun. Benegumo fights against Kyuzo and Kyuzo defeats him easily. Later, a Nobusari attacks Heihachi's post with a grenade and Heihachi gets injured. Katsushiro then attacks the Raiden and defeats it. With most of the Nobusari defeated, a couple of armored samurai remain with the Benegumo. They defeat the armored samurai easily, but the Benegumo fires a shot at Goroba. Luckily, he's able to deflect it. The force throws Goroba close to a house and the Benegumo fire another shot, but this time it hits Goroba. Kanbei takes on the Benegumo one-on-one, but the Benegumo cheats by bringing out a hidden gun. To even the odds, Kyuzo cuts off the arm where the gun is. In addition, the farmers shoot at the Benegumo using a Nobusari weapon. To finish the Benegumo, Kanbei cuts off its head and also cuts him in half. After all the fighting is said and done, the severely hurt Gorobe lies in the village as the train pours down. Kanbei insists that he has killed him when he recruited him to fight. Goroba tells him that he gave him life. With that, Goroba dies. Kanbei then leaves the village. The Nobusari are defeated for the time being. Kyuzo has also disappeared. Meanwhile, Ukyo is trimming his pants when a messenger from the Emperor arrives stating that Ukyo's father has been removed from the position of magistrate due to his failure to capture the samurai. He adds that Ukyo is the new magistrate. Elsewhere, Kanbei heads to the cave where the guardians reside. Honoka sees him and runs up to him. Kanbei informs her that Goroba is dead, but Kana is saved. He adds that he is here to fulfill his promise to her and get back her sister. At the capital, a woman sits in a chair. 3 girls arrive. One of them calls the woman Sane, and Sane calls that girl Mizuki. They soon go inside to cool off, Sane worrying about her unborn child. Just then, 2 guards arrive and tell Sane that the Emperor has called for them. Elsewhere, Ukyo summons all the samurai who were imprisoned and begs for their forgiveness. He tricks them, telling them that he did not know that the capital was funding the Nobusari and how he hates what merchants have become. Thus, he tells them that they will be deployed to farming villages to protect the innocent. Meanwhile, Kanbei is taken to the capital and is presented in front of the Emperor, Amanushi, and numerous other higher-ups. Just then, Sane arrives. Amanushi calls her by name and tells her to sit down, saying that the man is the one who killed the envoy. Hearing her name, Kanbei decides to act. Suddenly, Kanbei leaps up, knocks the 2 guards out, grabs a knife, and sticks it inches away from Amanushi's face. He demands, much to Mizuki's delight, that the woman go free. Sane walks up to him and begs him not to. She says that she loves Amanushi and wants to stay. Realizing that his plan has failed, Kanbei pulls the knife away and allows himself to be taken away. Back at Kana, Heihachi and Shichiroji approach Katsushiro and Kikuchiyo. Before they leave to rescue Kanbei, Kikuchiyo says that they have to stop by Masamune's and get his sword fixed. Elsewhere in the village, Kirara talks with her grandmother. She convinces her to let her go with Katsushiro and adds that she loves him. A little while later, Kirara and Komachi show up saying that they are going with the 2. Back at the capital, Kanbei is in a jail cell awaiting his execution. Mizuki arrives to give him food. She tells him, upon request, that there are a total of 10 women at the capital and that Sane pretended to love Amanushi to protect the other 9. Kanbei then asks Mizuki if she knows of a girl with an older sister by the name of Honoka. Mizuki says that her older sister's name is Honoka. Meanwhile, Ukyo is summoned before the Amanushi. He takes some blood from him and reads his DNA. He confirms that he is his 49th clone. He then puts him through a 3-day test. Tessei and Ayamaro explain that each clone before Ukyo was put through a series of questions that last 3 days, but so far none of them managed to survive. Amanushi adds that Ukyo should be different because he was raised as a peasant and not in the capital with him. Ukyo undergoes 3 grueling days of questions. While this happens, he studies Amanushi. Eventually he passes and becomes the next successor. Later, Sanaya talks with Amanushi, asking what will happen to the child. Amanushi replies that he also will be a successor. After hearing this conversation, Ukyo decides to head to Kanbei's cell. He tells him that he was the one who murdered the Imperial Envoy for a friend. Back at the capital, Ukyo meets with Amanushi privately and kills him by pulling his oxygen plug. He stages an act and fakes Amanushi's voice in front of everyone behind a curtain. He makes it look like Amanushi is abdicating to Ukyo. With that, Ukyo becomes the new Amanushi and is accepted by everyone who believes that the former wanted this. Ukyo meets with the leader of the Nobusari and tells him that he hates all the bandits. However, he still wants them to continue their raids on villages. Meanwhile, he tells the samurai to go out and protect the villages. Elsewhere, Katsushiro and the others make their way to the capital. They spot it hovering in the sky along with Nobusari's ships. They make their way into town and see an announcement. Kanbei will be executed at 6 in the evening. Not wanting to waste time, they find Masamune. He takes their swords, saying that they will take too long to fix, and gives Katsushiro and Kikuchiyo new ones to use temporarily. In Kanbei's cell, Mizuki arrives to give him his final meal. She cries for him and asks how he's going to save them if he's dead. He then takes her headpin without her knowing. Katsushiro and the others head toward the capital. They find some guardians delivering power cells to the capital in celebration of the new emperor. Katsushiro apologizes and knocks the three out. He, Kirara, and Kikuchiyo then dress up as the guardians. Kanbei is on the execution platform awaiting the turn of the hour. He turns to the executioner and asks him if he's man enough to show his true face when he does it. The execution then raises his axe. Seconds from death, Kanbei takes the pin he borrowed from Mizuki and frees himself. With ease, he knocks out the executioner and the surrounding guards, making his way to Ukyo. Ukyo pulls out a megaphone and announces that even though Kanbei tried to assassinate the former emperor, his intentions were just. As a result, he is pardoning Kanbei and freeing the women. He turns his back and starts to leave. Suddenly, Katsushiro arrives. Ukyo tells him that it's all okay. Ukyo sits on his throne and says that he wants to start making peace with the peasants. He adds that a few unfortunate accidents have to occur, however, since the peasants who have experienced war will never make peace. Kanbei and the others make it outside with the women and meet up with Kamashi and Masamune. She, who is still hesitant about leaving and has recently lost her unborn child due to stress, asks if Rikichi is here. Meanwhile, Tessei approaches Ayamaro, telling him that the emperor has no intention of keeping him alive and that he sadly has no more use for his former father. Tessei adds that because he has served him for so long, he wants him to live and tells him to flee. Ayamaro flees the capital, but is caught by Mohawk. Just as he is about to kill Ayamaro, Kyuzo arrives. He tells Mohawk that he will not let him kill Ayamaro or Kanbei. Suddenly, he swings around and kills Mohawk. As he runs away, Ayamaro yells at him to take him with him, but Kyuzo is already gone. At night, Katsushiro runs off as Kirara chases him. He tells her that he's going alone. Elsewhere in the town, Kyuzo, who is being followed by Ayamaro, spots Katsushiro walking away. Meanwhile, Ukyo talks with the head of Nobusari. He tells the bandit that he wants them to find the hidden rice that the farmers keep. Inside, Ayamaro tells everyone that Ukyo plans to spark a revolution and eventually wants to control the world. At the capital, Ukyo is informed that the assassination attempts on Kanbei and Ayamaro have failed. Ukyo tells them to continue trying. The next day, Shichiroji, Heihachi, and Rikichi arrive. Rikichi notices Sane in her room. He runs up to her, but she tells him not to come in. Rikichi informs her that he knows everything, but is still okay with it, and wants her to come home. Eventually, he steps in the room and adds that he'll build a grave for the late emperor and for the infant. She breaks down and cries even more. Elsewhere, Ukyo is playing golf. Two Nobusari arrive, one being injured. He tells Ukyo that while they were taking rice from the farmers, some samurai attacked them and said that they worked for the capital. Ukyo replies that he's putting the two against each other because he needs servants when he rules the world, and the peasants make the best kind. With that, a cannon fires and the two bandits are incinerated. Kanbei and the others make it to the palace where the guardians are. Mizuki is reunited with her sister, Hanoka. Suddenly, the guardians plop down and surround the samurai. The guardians tell the samurai that they are not mad and that they are willing to help. Later at night, Katsushiro is riding toward Kama and spots one of Ukyo's men attempting to start a fire. He kills him. In the village, Manzo and some other villagers are being bullied by some more of Ukyo's men. They tell them that if the samurai return, they will report it to the capital immediately. Just then, Katsushiro arrives. He tells Manzo and the others to run and then proceeds to kill Ukyo's men. Just as the leader dies, he tells Katsushiro that they are planning to burn the village down and make an example out of it. He adds that there are fire starters surrounding the village. Katsushiro meets with the village elder and some of the villagers. He tells them that the capital will come after them again and again until they are defeated. With that, they prepare their defenses. Kanbei and the others sit by a fire and devise a strategy. They decide to attack the capital head-on as soon as they get the ship ready. At Kana, Katsushiro and the villagers prepare for the upcoming battle. Kamashi awakens on board the flying platform. She soon realizes that all the samurai are gone. Later that night, Katsushiro hears a noise and soon the capital itself is seen heading toward the village. Katsushiro draws his sword and soon manages to reflect the cannon fire. Inside the capital, Ukyo is informed that only a true samurai can deflect it. Ukyo soon deploys his new Nobusari, who are mindless and only do what Ukyo tells them to. The villagers manage to take out a couple of the bandits, but unfortunately they were unable to stop them. Katsushiro takes up his sword and single-handedly kills 3 Nobusari. Suddenly, Ukyo is informed that a battleship is heading toward them at a rapid speed. Kanbei and the other samurai have arrived. The cannon is fired and Kanbei tells Shichiroji to keep continuing forward. The ship is destroyed and the 4 jump to the capital. In Canada, the villagers tell Katsushiro that the catapult is ready. They set it on fire and Katsushiro heads on top of it. He rides it toward the capital, but it's too short. Katsushiro jumps but is hit by a Nobusari. Heihachi flies up next to him in a suit of armor and grabs Katsushiro. He throws him into the lower half of the capital and soon follows. Katsushiro fends off the bandits, while Heihachi sets detonators. Elsewhere in the capital, Kanbei and the others make it to the main throne room and discover Ukyo. However, the 3 samurai soon realize that he's a fake as each of them finds an Ukyo. In the lower half, Heihachi continues to set up the detonators, but he is shot. Katsushiro, who is still fending off the bandits, yells out to him that he will save him. Heihachi tells him not to and hits the switch. He blows up the lower half, along with himself. Bandits arrive and start shooting at the 3. Kanbei and Shichiroji manage to take cover, but Kikuchiyo is gunned down. Tessei manages to capture Shichiroji, but just in time, Kyuzo arrives on the back of a Nobusari's weapon. He jumps down and within seconds, kills Tessei. The bandits start firing and Katsushiro shows up. His sword breaks and just as he is about to be shot, Kanbei saves him. This leaves him defenseless and seeing this, Katsushiro picks up a gun. He shoots the bandit, but unbeknownst to him, Kyuzo is standing behind the bandit and is also shot. In his last breath, he tells Kanbei that he will be waiting for him in Kana. Ukyo and the Prime Minister head toward the escape pods. Once they arrive, they are attacked by Katsushiro, Shichiroji, and Kikuchiyo. Ukyo uses the Prime Minister as a shield and he is slashed. Just as Kikuchiyo is about to kill Ukyo, the capital knocks into a rock and Kikuchiyo misses. Ukyo takes this opportunity and shoots Kikuchiyo until he turns off. He then kicks Katsushiro around, asking where Kanbei is. The doors open and Kanbei, along with numerous Nobusari, wait on the other side. Katsushiro tells him that he will take care of the Nobusari. Simultaneously, the 2 charge at their opponents. Kanbei slashes Ukyo and Katsushiro attacks the Nobusari. Just as Kanbei and Shichiroji are about to stop the capital from falling on Kana, Ukyo stands up. He is about to attack Kanbei when Kikuchiyo wakes up, and the 2 fall off the capital. Down below, Rikichi and the others arrive just in time to catch a badly damaged Kikuchiyo. While the Nobusari rescues Ukyo, Ukyo is carried by the Nobusari to where Kirara and the others are. He approaches Kirara and tells her to come with him. Kikuchiyo punches him and he falls off. Kikuchiyo then kills the Nobusari. In the capital, the 3 samurai, Kanbei and Shichiroji and elsewhere Katsushiro, kill numerous Nobusari in an attempt to prevent the capital from falling on Kana. In front, Kikuchiyo uses everything he has to try to stop the capital from heading forward, and soon he manages to push it back. It falls in a gorge along with Ukyo and Kikuchiyo. The 3 remaining samurai manage to make it out. Winter comes and goes. Kirara has given her water priestess duties along with the dowsing crystal to Komachi. 4 graves are erected, marked by the swords of the 4 fallen samurai. One night, at their graves, Katsushiro bids farewell to them. Kirara arrives and he tells her that she gave him the strength to live. Kanbei and Shichiroji interrupt. Kanbei then gives Katsushiro his sword and tells him to find his own battles. With that, Katsushiro leaves. Soon later, the farmers are back to their merry selves. They sing as they plant rice. Elsewhere, the Guardians along with Ayamaro rebuild the capital so that it can be used in a helpful, peaceful way. The village elder arrives. Kanbei tells him that they will be leaving. Kanbei and Shichiroji walk off while Kirara and the others smile happily at their new freedom. Up on a hill, the graves of the fallen samurai are accompanied by the flag the 7 made when it all began. The end. If you enjoy this video, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more.